You've just posted a video on YouTube. Naturally, you're going to want to check in and see how it's performing, see how many views it's getting, how many people are commenting and liking the video, and of course, how it compares to your last 10 videos. Since you're a healthy and well-adjusted person, you'll check the numbers a few times here and there, but otherwise go about your day as normal. What's less healthy and well-adjusted, however, is transforming into an absolutely degenerate fiend, hunched over your screen, constantly refreshing the view count, getting excited as a little surge of views comes in, feeling crushed as the views start to flatline, going deeper and deeper into increasingly obscure metrics, trying to find some hidden pattern that will tell you if this video has any chance of success, all the while putting off real-life responsibilities and hating yourself more and more with each passing minute. I wish I was joking. Of course, it's important to understand that looking at YouTube analytics can represent vastly different realities for different channels. Maybe you're a very small channel and get excited if a video cracks 100 views. Maybe you're a very large channel and get disappointed if a video gets less than 1 million views. Maybe you're a channel that's had a few hit videos here and there, gained some subscribers along the way, and every time you release a video, you pray it'll be your next success and feel devastated when it inevitably turns out not to be. But I'd like to argue that in all of these cases, obsessing over and constantly checking your analytics is still a bad thing to do. Of course, there are valid reasons to look at your analytics. It's important to understand what content is or isn't working on your channel and try to identify things to improve on in future videos or evaluate when it may be appropriate to change the title and/or thumbnail of an existing video. But most of the time, that's not why you're checking your analytics. Most of the time, you just want to see how many views your videos are getting. People like seeing numbers go up. Big number good, small number not so good. People like big numbers even when they represent something that's mostly imaginary, like having a ton of pi real in Asheron's Call. Everyone's old enough to remember Asheron's Call, right? People like big numbers even when they represent something that's mostly imaginary, like having a ton of cash in GTA 5. But when those numbers do represent something tangible in the real world, the stakes are even more exciting or potentially more soul-crushing. Just ask anyone who's ever gambled a large portion of their life savings on crypto. As much as views on a YouTube video can at one level just feel like an abstract number on a screen, it does match up to something in the real world. It's exciting to know that a couple thousand people have watched one of my videos. It's even more exciting to know that 50,000 people have watched one, and I can't imagine how exciting it would be to know that 1 million people have watched one. Well, I can imagine it. I think about it all the time. And even if the total number of views is just a number, with all those views comes tons of comments and new subscribers. It brings attention, maybe even admiration. And one thing everyone seems to want these days is to be admired on social media. Oh, and also if you get enough views on YouTube, you also make a lot of money. These days, people are always talking about dopamine, and I think it often gets oversimplified or misrepresented, but without getting into like neurobiology, viewing real-time analytics is a great way to just completely fry out the reward-seeking part of your brain. For example, when I post a new video, there's a wide range of possibilities as to how it will perform. Say the video gets about 100 views in the first 6 or so hours, and I go to bed. When I check how it's doing in the morning, it's possible it will have gotten just another 100 or less views overnight, but it's also possible it will have picked up steam in the algorithm and already be over 1,000 views. But the fun doesn't end there, because even if a video doesn't do much in its first 24 hours, it can often get a surge of views a few days later as the algorithm promotes it out to a new audience. So every time I decide to check my analytics in the days after posting a new video, there's a chance of receiving the reward of an exciting uptick in views. And it doesn't matter that most often what I get instead is the disappointment of not getting many views or getting a small surge of views that I think might be the start of something big, only to be let down again when it quickly fizzles out. Because all my brain knows is that there is still the possibility of a reward, the anticipation of a reward. Of course, even when a video is doing decently well, there's always the part of me that's like, well, that's good, but couldn't it be doing even better? Couldn't I be getting even more views? So unless one of my videos is truly a breakout hit, it's very hard to ever feel fully satisfied. but it's very easy to constantly check my analytics chasing that special moment where I actually get the reward I'm craving. But this is just my experience, and like I said before, it's possible to be having a very different experience with YouTube analytics. I've often imagined what it would be like to have your channel truly start to blow up, to get to the point where views and subscribers begin to grow exponentially, where even other older videos that never got many views before start to pick up attention, where successive videos build on each other as you lock into a winning formula for your audience. In this case, it seems like you'd be virtually guaranteed some kind of reward whenever you open YouTube Studio. Maybe that means you're even more addicted to checking, or maybe it starts to lose the thrill and eventually you settle back into a more healthy relationship with these numbers. It's also all too common to be on top of the YouTube world one day, only to then see your videos start to steadily decline over time, in which case checking analytics may quickly become more and more stressful once again. Regardless, though, of how successful your channel is, there is one thing that absolutely torments YouTubers of all sizes. If you are lucky enough not to be filled with crushing despair when you see this, I'll let a much more successful YouTuber than me tell you what it means. In a recent video, Gabby Bell explains,
"Whenever you post a video, you get a ranking of how well it's doing in the algorithm compared to your last 10 videos on a scale of 1 to 10. 1 out of 10 gets confetti and a big hug from YouTube. 10 out of 10 gets a gray down arrow because red felt too mean. YouTubers place so much importance on this metric, it consumes them."
She then goes on to play a clip from even more popular YouTuber Tommy Innit discussing the same phenomenon.
And when I chat with YouTubers, from the majority of my experience, all they talk about is how they can have another banger, how they can get more of this attention. Because that's what it tells you to want, to feel, to need.
Now, I'm not sure if knowing that even big YouTubers still struggle with the way this ranking system makes them feel makes me feel better about myself, or worse because it seems like even if I find real success on YouTube, there's still no escaping it. In a recent video, YouTubers Colin and Samir discussed the suggestion that YouTube should get rid of the ranking system altogether.
I definitely don't want to get rid of it.
Yeah, I think it's important.
Yeah.
I think it's important. I think there's a quote from a movie executive who said, "The day I stopped caring about the box office numbers is the day I should be out of the business."
Yeah.
And I always feel that about the 1 of 10 ranking, of like the day I stop caring about that is the day I should be out, because that's the game.
And like, yeah, I kind of get where they're coming from. Like, if you want to succeed on YouTube, you need to care about how well your videos are doing, but do you need YouTube to immediately tell you where a video ranks, to give you confetti when it does well and those cursed gray down arrows when it does bad? If you're deep into YouTube, you probably spend enough time analyzing each video's performance that you'd know how it stacks up without YouTube shoving that info into your face. Plus, it's not uncommon for a video that starts off as a 10 of 10 to actually go on and perform just fine. But it still hurts to see the 10 of 10 even if it's only temporary. And no matter how successful you are, barring some insane scenario where literally every video you post outperforms the last one, eventually you're gonna have a flop. But no matter how much the rational part of your brain understands that this type of thing is arbitrary and says very little about where you actually are on your YouTube journey, the emotional part of your brain can't help but react to it. As stupid as it sounds, this small piece of text can cause an enormous amount of pain and leave you feeling fully discouraged about posting videos on YouTube. It's as good a reason as any to say you really should ignore your analytics as much as possible. But can you really succeed on YouTube without paying any attention to your analytics? Aside from the total view count, two of the most important metrics for a video's success are click-through rate and average view duration. But what can you learn from those numbers? What can you do with them? Well, you may have heard, for example, that if you notice that one of your videos has a low click-through rate, it's a good idea to try changing up the title and thumbnail. But before you do that, you should understand a little bit more about how CTR works. Click-through rate, or CTR, is what percentage of people who were shown your thumbnail, impressions, decide to click on it. So a CTR of 10% means that if 100 people were shown your thumbnail, 10 of those people decided to click on it. But there are many factors that affect CTR, and a low CTR does not necessarily mean your video isn't going to get a lot of views. Something that seems to be generally true about CTR is that videos that are shown to wider audiences will tend to have lower CTRs. On the other hand, sometimes videos with few impressions will actually have a high CTR because it's only being shown to a very select audience. But in this case, your video probably won't have very many views either. In addition to that, different traffic sources tend to have different CTRs. So if your CTR is low, it might be worth breaking it out by traffic source to see, for example, whether you're getting more suggested video impressions than browse features impressions, because suggested video impressions almost always have a lower CTR than browse features impressions. Thus, if you have a low overall CTR, it might be simply because you've been receiving a higher share of suggested video impressions, and it doesn't necessarily mean you need to freak out and start frantically changing your title or thumbnail. And depending on whether you're a normal person or a person who's tragically obsessed with YouTube analytics, you probably either found that last paragraph extremely boring or weirdly fascinating. My goal here is not to explain all of this in perfect detail, but to simply point out that even when you feel like you understand this stuff fairly well, it can still be hard to know what to do with that knowledge. To go even deeper, when you first release a video, YouTube starts by promoting it out to subscribers and frequent viewers of your content, what it considers to be your core audience. And oftentimes, this means that your initial CTR will actually be quite high, because it's being shown to the people who are, in theory, the most receptive to your content. Then, when the algorithm starts pushing your video out to a wider audience, you may see your CTR start to rapidly drop. And in my experience, once the CTR drops below a certain level is often when the views on your video start to flatline. Of course, I've also had videos with a fairly low CTR continue to steadily receive views for many days. One of the most frustrating things about trying to make sense of your analytics is that there's almost always an exception to every rule. I've even heard people suggest that once the video starts being promoted out to that wider audience, if you do notice the CTR starting to plummet and subsequently the views starting to drop off, that is a good time to try out a fresh thumbnail and/or title. And this would in theory actually be a good reason to obsessively monitor your analytics, because exactly when the video starts to be promoted out will vary from channel to channel and from video to video, and because you may only have a fairly short window to make changes before the algorithm stops recommending your video altogether, if you're not constantly checking your numbers, you might miss your shot. Of course, nowadays, you can also A/B test multiple thumbnails when you first publish your video, which should in theory reduce the need to make changes on the fly. But I've personally never been super successful with any type of title or thumbnail change, and hopefully I've made it clear that all of this is very tedious and stressful, and there's absolutely no guarantee that anything you do after posting a video will alter its performance whatsoever. Average view duration, which measures how long people keep watching your video before getting bored and clicking off of it, the other key metric of a video's success, is a lot easier to understand than CTR. You can see it expressed as minutes and seconds, or as a percentage of the total video. And perhaps most usefully, you can look at retention graphs to see if there are spots in your videos where a lot of people are dropping off. But again, the question becomes, what should you do with this knowledge? Well, if your videos have bad average view durations, then the obvious solution is just to make more engaging content. Just make more engaging content, bro. Make videos people actually want to watch. Yeah, I know. If I knew how to do that, I wouldn't be making a video complaining about how hellish YouTube analytics are. Of course, if you see a spot on your retention graph with a steep drop off and you go back and watch that part and realize it was actually kind of boring and could have been written better or left out entirely, that's a useful piece of knowledge for future videos. And on the flip side, maybe you see that a certain style of intro works especially well at keeping people watching and you want to replicate that style going forward. But past little insights like that, rather than combing over retention rates for individual videos, if you want to make more engaging content, your time is probably far better spent learning how to be a better storyteller, learning editing techniques that help with retention, practicing being more confident and relaxed on camera, or learning any number of other skills to level up your content creation game. I'm sorry for saying that. It's important to understand that YouTube analytics can give you clues as to why a video is performing badly, and those clues can be more or less obvious, but it can never tell you the full story, because the full story is governed by algorithms that no one, not even the people who made them, fully understand. So I think there is a relatively healthy way to engage with all of this, taking it with a grain of salt, finding the insights that are most valuable, and then simply moving on to your next video. And then there's an unhealthy way where you do basically the exact opposite of that. Stress out over the tiniest fluctuations in your metrics, get overly emotional, and become unable to let go of the fact that no matter how you analyze it, your video probably just isn't going to do as well as you want it to. I probably don't need to say which camp I usually fall into. For a while now, I've been feeling pretty burned out on my career path as a graphic designer. Like a lot of people who work in the creative industry, while I've done plenty of design work that I'm proud of, I've always wanted to pour my time into a form of art that's really my own. I want to make something for my audience, as opposed to dealing with the endless bullshit that often comes from making stuff for clients. Being a full-time YouTuber is such a common dream these days that I feel almost stupid for being one of the people that has it. And I honestly don't even know for sure if being a YouTuber is my dream job. I just know it's a lot closer to a dream job than anything else I'm doing professionally at the moment. Because of this, the last few years have been spent trying and mostly failing to balance the work that actually makes me money, freelance design, and the work I'm actually passionate about doing, creating YouTube videos. So naturally, every time I release a video, I want it to be the video that brings me closer to actually making real money on YouTube. And every time I check my analytics, that reward my brain is searching for feels very consequential because, as unlikely as it might be, there's a chance one of my videos could do well enough to actually alter the trajectory of my life and career. But one of the many problems with this fantasy is that one-hit video, even a video with more than 1 million views, does not guarantee any sort of sustainable success on YouTube. It might earn you a nice chunk of money and gain you a lot of subscribers, but I've seen many channels get that big hit and then be completely unable to replicate it in the future. To truly succeed on YouTube, you need a successful formula that not only attracts an audience, but keeps them coming back to your channel. And I've talked about this before, but this might be one of the hardest lessons to learn as a small YouTuber, and one of the reasons checking your analytics can be so awful. When you get one hit video, you feel like you've cracked the code and it's all gonna fall into place. Then the next 3 videos don't go anywhere and you get crushed and feel like you're right back to square one. I actually do believe that I am capable of making a full-time living on YouTube. I believe it's something that with enough time and effort, I could do. But what I don't know is how much time and effort it might take. I don't even know if this channel is the right channel to get me to that goal. It's possible I might have to completely start over with a new channel, and then I might even have to start over again, which is a daunting prospect. I think the right way to approach this challenge is obviously to understand that the amount of views a video gets doesn't tell you the full story. If you were to look at my YouTube channel overall, you might notice that, sure, a lot of my videos don't get very many views, but virtually every one of my videos gets a handful of positive and encouraging comments. Comments telling me how much they enjoy my work, telling me to keep posting, reassuring me that someday my channel is gonna blow up. And if you are one of the people who often comment on my work, just know that I deeply appreciate it. And really, this should be enough to keep me going. And I honestly think it is enough because, well, I haven't quit yet. But unfortunately, it's not quite enough to free me from the hell of YouTube analytics. I was gonna end this video with some tips for checking your analytics less often. For example, if you have this app on your phone, you should probably delete it. There's no reason you need to be like checking your analytics on your phone while you're feeling awkward and sitting in the corner at a party you got invited to. You can wait till you get back to your computer. But this doesn't really get to the root cause, because if you really want to, you can always find an excuse to go and check how many views your videos are getting. Maybe the root cause is just the same as everything else. Addiction to screens, addiction to attention, dopamine, why not throw that word in again? If you care about finding success on YouTube, it's very hard not to care about how a video performs. And if you care about how a video performs, it's very hard not to want to constantly check on how it's doing. The one saving grace for me is that most of my videos really only get a significant number of views within the first week or less of being released, so I usually only have to endure this pain for a few days at a time. Still, I do hope to eventually find a better relationship to this whole dynamic, but until then, I will just say if you can relate to any part of this video, good luck. And if you're watching this, it probably means I recently uploaded this video and will have learned absolutely zero lessons from the fact that I made an entire video essay about how checking your analytics obsessively is a bad thing to do, and more likely than not, I'm probably checking my analytics right now.